Howdy, y'all. It's Curious Raven. Today is the 9th day of our Advent. We have one more day left, and tomorrow is Christmas. Today, I am joined by Booze and Booze. Please go over to his channel and show him some love. Let's get to these stories. Hello. Me and my family moved last year to a house in a little town. We were told that the lady who lived here before us had passed away in the house, and possibly her husband as well. We've had a couple weird things happen, like weird noises, things falling off shelves, but lately we've seen a lot of things. The first time I saw it, it was like 2 a.m., and I got up from bed to go to the washroom, and I saw someone walk into the kitchen. I said hello, because I thought it was one of my parents, and no one responded. So I walked in, and no one was there. But it was late, so I thought I was just seeing things. So, down today, I had just woken up, home alone, but I didn't know that. Got out of bed to get my medicine, and I'm bad at taking pills, so it takes me a couple tries. So I'm standing in the kitchen, looking out the window, and behind me, I see a black figure walk behind me to the hallway. I said hi again, because I thought maybe it was my dad. So, once I finished with my pill, I walked through the hallway rooms, and no one was there. Weird. So, I went to see if there were cars still there, and they weren't. So, hello, ghost. I'm freaking out, and I call my dad and ask if anyone was home, and he said, just you. I was freaking out, babbling, and he said, you saw it too? What? He saw the shadow walking too. And I'm like, okay, so I'm not seeing stuff. He reassures me that it's a friendly spirit, and go sit down. My 1.5 dog is beside me, and I hear what sounds like a footsteps at the end of the hallway. I can't see it from where I'm sitting. I call my other dog because maybe I'm just freaking myself out. She was beside me and I didn't realize, and all of a sudden I hear running down the hallway. It was so freaky but kind of cool. So this has really solidified it for us that there's definitely at least one spirit here. If anyone has any recommendations, if I should make contact or something, I'm not sure what to do. Do I just let it be? Because I know something has to be quite powerful to show itself and push objects and make noise. Anyways, thanks for listening. Wish me luck. Laugh out loud. Edit. Hi, it's the same day. Keep in mind, I feel sick. I'm so scared. Just called my mom to tell her what happened earlier. We found out her name, and my mom's really excited for a ghost friend, and she was talking to her over the phone. Anyways, I went to go into the kitchen to make food for her before she got home and hung up the phone. Me and my dog Daisy were in the kitchen, and I talked to my doggie a lot. I said, wouldn't it be funny if I saw the ghost again? And a couple seconds later, my dog's hair went up, and she started growling at nothing. She never growls or gets scared at anything. And the one light in the kitchen started flickering. We've never had this issue before, and all other lights that were on were completely fine. Now I'm just sort of ranting about it, so I'm not so freaked out. But now I'm kind of worried my mom set it off by talking to her and using her name. Even though my mom and dad have seen it and heard stuff, I'm like, maybe I'm just hallucinating? Story 2. This is my first time posting, and from an experience of when I was in my early teens. When I was in school, I had to travel to a different town, which meant I had to walk every morning and evening to and from the bus stop, and it wasn't a short walk. This was in the autumn when the nights had started to draw in, and I had a specific route I would take, usually through back alleys, as it cut the journey down from about 25 minutes to 15 minutes. But one October evening, my bus was late, so I was late to get off at the bus stop. I was walking with a friend, and we were walking our normal route. It was cold, and both of us just wanted to go home. The street lights around my area aren't always working, so we had our phones out with the torches on to light up the alleys. We've been walking for about 5 minutes when we saw something out of the corner of our eyes to our left, down towards a car park. My friend called out as I shone my light to see if I could see anything. We'd stopped and looked down for a minute but saw nothing. So I continued walking, but again saw something out of the corner of my eye and looked across the street to see a man, barely visible in the lights, from a nearby building. The man was mostly plain, couldn't really make out any features, just that of a very wide smile that just felt uncanny. As I turned to try and make out more features, me and my friend got startled by the scraping of metal on concrete down the car park, so we ran the rest of the way to our homes. From that night, I always took the longer route, as it was down a well-lit road where more people would walk. I don't know much on the smiling man, but I can't get this guy's smile out of my mind, and this was years ago. Story 3. 6 years ago, my friend and I went to Montreal for the day. When we arrived at the train station, I used the washroom. When I went in, I was alone. No one was in there. Anyways, while I was washing my hands, I saw a woman pass by me through the reflection of the mirror. She was in her mid to late 40s, with short and straight blonde hair, and wearing a plaid shirt. I don't think anything of it. It's a public washroom. People come and go. But as I was drying my hands, I realized I didn't hear any stall doors open. I didn't hear any movement or noise at all and found that a bit strange. So I decided to lean over and see if there was anyone in the stalls. There was not. I was still very alone in that washroom. Realizing that, I immediately got goosebumps and ran out as quickly as I could. I told my friend what I witnessed, and he looked at me like I was insane. Story 4. This morning at around 6:15, I got woken up to what felt like something grabbing or lightly slapping my foot. I have 3 cats, one of which, Leo, loves to attack mine and my wife's feet under the blanket. So my first thought was that it was Leo. However, when I leaned to check, all 3 of my cats were laying next to me, 2 of them to my left and 1 to my right. Probably about 5 or so seconds later, the cat that was lying on my right jumped up, like those videos of people putting cucumbers behind cats, and he hissed and jumped off the bed, ran to the other side of the room, and just sat there staring at the bed. It kind of creeped me out a bit, but I ended up just getting ready for work and not really thinking much more about it. Now, earlier today, on my lunch break, I called my wife to tell her about it. She had to go into work early 5 a.m., so she was already home. After telling her, she was pretty freaked out because she said that about 2 to 3 in the morning, she had what she described as a lucid dream sleep paralysis where she saw a dark figure pacing back and forth at the edge of her bed. She said she felt like she couldn't move, which is why I said sleep paralysis, but could also be the typical frozen in fear. But when she was able to move, she turned on her phone flashlight and looked around but saw nothing. I somewhat recall waking up and seeing her with the light, but I'm a heavy sleeper, so I didn't fully wake up. So we were both pretty weirded out by the fact that we both had creepy experiences in the same morning, but not really sure what to make of it since something of this nature has never really happened before. Just to add, my grandmother died when I was about 1 to 2, and according to my father, she was very attached to me. I remember as a kid seeing what I described as colored dust. If you close your eyes really hard and you see that almost colorful TV static stuff, that's what it looked like. It would move around my room in the dark and make somewhat humanoid shapes, and I always just kind of felt like someone was always around me. It scared me sometimes as a kid, but thinking back on it nowadays, I wouldn't consider that stuff scary anymore, especially the colored dust. But I think that was just my eyes doing weird stuff in the pitch black. I would tell my parents about it, and they would always say it was my grandmother watching over me. As a kid, that was a quite confusing concept to grasp, especially since I never met her, considering she died when I was so young. Just thought that this information would be useful to add. Story 5.
My story takes place when I was around 4 years old. I don't remember much about it, but my parents have told me that we lived inside this 2-story house in the woods. We didn't have too many neighbors around us, a few, but not a lot. My mother told me that I used to play with a ghost all the time as a kid, one I called Katie. Me and my sister, who were 3 years younger than me, were the only two that actually saw her. My mother remembers me talking about a pretty average height, white ghost who had a white dress that was almost all the way to the ground. As I said, I don't personally remember too much about it, but I do remember after a while, we ended up going to a graveyard. And as usual, Katie always came with us. But when we started leaving, my mother asked, "Won't you wait for Katie?" I had all the answers, and I told her that Katie's going to stay here for now. And, well, I never saw her again. My next story was when I was 7 or 8. I lived in a small apartment on the first floor. There was only one bedroom, which was usually filled with stuff, so my family and I all slept in the living room on the sofa. I was the one sleeping closest to the wall. On the other side of the wall was the kitchen. Pretty much every night I would sleep there, and I would have these nightmares. I always woke up around 3 a.m. and then would fall asleep later on. In these nightmares, there was always this super tall man who always wanted to trap me or hurt me. The one that I remember exactly is where me and my grandma were inside this house. It was pouring rain outside. Suddenly, I remembered that we left our shoes outside. When I opened up the door to grab them, there he was, this tall black creature. Randomly, there would be this trash can next to the door. He would pick me up and put me inside, lock me in there. I'd wake up and it would be around 3 a.m. Once my mother even tried sleeping in that same spot, and she also had a nightmare and also woke up at 3 a.m. Then one night before we moved from that apartment, I fell asleep and I had another dream, the kind where you wake up like a ninja and jump out of bed ready to fight. I was searching for him and I saw somebody walking out of the kitchen. A tall man with a long beard, long hair, and it turns out he just wanted a friend to play with. In the dream, we still agreed to meet up some other times, spend some more time together, but I never saw him again. Later on, when I was talking to my mother about these dreams, she told me that yes, there was a ghost portal in that apartment and was also on the second or third floor. I can't remember which. I also forgot to mention that we saw many things get lost in there. Like we would throw a ball on top of the wardrobe, and when we went to go look for it, it just didn't exist anymore. Since then, I've always been a full believer in ghosts. And the only appearance of ghosts that I had after that has been in my current apartment. One night I was doing some editing behind my desk. I decided to put both of my headphones on. When I did so, I heard this loud bang exactly behind my back. When I turned around to look, there wasn't anything there. Nothing had fallen, nothing had broken. I thought initially maybe the neighbors had fallen or broken something, but that would have been a completely different sound. I've never seen or heard a ghost afterwards. I don't disturb them and they don't disturb me. When I was talking to my mother about the ghosts, she told me that once inside this apartment, when she almost fell asleep on the sofa in the living room, something had shaken her up. But when she awoke, she was all alone. Moral of the story is my experience with ghosts is not that impressive, but I think it's still worth talking about.
All right, y'all, that is the end of the stories today. I hope y'all have a very wonderful Christmas Eve. I will see you tomorrow. But until then, remember, it's scary out there. Please like and subscribe.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in